Hi everyone. Welcome to an introduction to Acrolinx's webinar. I'm Allison Hepburn, Acrolinx's product evangelist. In this webinar today, I'm going to take you through a high-level overview of Acrolinx, who we are, what we do, how we fit into the content world. Then I'm going to show you Acrolinx in action, like a day in the life of an author or an editor who might be working with the software. As I go through the webinar today, please type any questions that you have in the questions box of the GoToWebinar doc. I'll address those questions at the end of the presentation. Acrolinx is very literally your content only better. Acrolinx is content optimization software. We are really here to help you create better, higher quality content. Just so you all know a little bit about me, I, of course, am Allison Hepburn, Acrolinx's product evangelist, as I have introduced myself. I'm a fairly recent addition to the team here at Acrolinx. Before joining Acrolinx, I was a technical editor at IBM. At IBM, I worked with a team of technical writers, subject matter experts, and engineers who created training content for global technical support teams. I brought Acrolinx into that group to improve our processes and our content, and that's why I'm here today. I really love Acrolinx, and I love working with the software. I'll show my contact information again at the end of the webinar today, so you can contact me directly if you have any questions or there's something that you don't want to bring up directly in the webinar today. Acrolinx is a trusted business provider to many different types of organizations in various kinds of industries. You can see some of the people who trust Acrolinx to improve their content on this slide. The Acrolinx technology was originally developed by a team at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence. That technology was spun off in 2002 to go commercial. The commercial software is really here to help people write better content through what is effectively automated copy editing. So we'll take a look at that today. Acrolinx is privately owned, headquartered in Berlin, Germany, and we have offices here in the US and also in Japan. Acrolinx can really help you create great language in your content. Acrolinx knows that the words you choose, they really matter, and Acrolinx can really help ensure that your content contains the right words to drive any of those content goals that you might have. We're able to do this by creating a consistent and enforceable voice to the customer. This customer might be internal, might be external, might be a combination of both, but ultimately you're going to want that consistent, high-quality content delivered to them. Acrolinx can enable you to create high-quality content that is consistent, understandable, and findable. Acrolinx guides your content creators toward using the right tone, the right structure, and the appropriate relevance for any of your company's content goals. If your content is consistent, understandable, and findable, then we like to say that it fulfills these three major readiness factors, and that is that your content is people-ready, global-ready, and search-ready. These major readiness factors tie very strongly into the tone, relevance, and structure of your content. The tone of your content really helps engage the right people. Some of you are probably working on content that is very formal, very technical, maybe user manuals or particular process guides, versus others of you may be working on content that's a little bit more marketing driven. Maybe that content needs to be a little bit more engaging with your customer. Acrolinx can help with that. We can support those different types of content goals that you might have. If you're working on content, you want to make sure that it's relevant for the right people around the globe. It's people ready and it's global ready. It supports that global initiative. You want to make sure that people are finding the content that they're looking for. Probably you have customers, either internal or external, who are looking for information to solve a problem or feedback about a process. Maybe you have a customer who's looking for information to make a purchase. You want to make sure that the content contains the right information for those different groups of people. You want to make sure that your content is structured in such a way that is search ready. You want to ensure that people can find the information that they're looking for to solve those problems or make those purchases. Lastly, you really want to ensure that your content is structured in such a way to support the tone and the relevance for all of those different groups of people who are going to consume that content. The tone, relevance, and structure of your content really support these major readiness factors and give you content that is consistent and enforceable to your customer. In order to achieve this consistent, enforceable voice, Acrolinx is going to specifically check your content in several major areas. Today I'm going to show you Acrolinx's checks for spelling, grammar, style, and terminology. SEO functionality or search engine optimization functionality is also part of our software. If that's something that's interesting to you and your content, then that is something that I would be happy to demonstrate to you at a later time. You're welcome to contact me about our SEO functionality and how it can affect the content that you're putting on the web. At a higher level, Acrolinx is able to help in a number of other ways as well. Acrolinx can really provide quality management. We provide quality assurance and also quality control in the form of formal metrics and reports. Acrolinx helps by providing your content creators and editors with immediate feedback, which I'll show you in just a minute when we move to the demonstration part of the software. Acrolinx is going to provide information to these content creators, these editors, about what they're writing, how to improve the content that they're creating, how to adhere to any style guidelines, any tone of voice requirements that you might have within your organization. This is the main point of interaction with the Acrolinx software for most end users, and you're going to get a sense of how that works today. This information is really going to provide these different people who are working with the content with information to improve how they write. It's going to help them build skills and create better, higher quality content over time. Then, as you improve your content, you probably want to measure those results. You want to keep track of how Acrolinx is helping you create better, higher quality content, more consistent, understandable, findable content. So Acrolinx also includes reporting and metrics to help you measure those improvements to your content's consistency, understandability, and findability. The next release of the Acrolinx software also includes enhanced reporting functionality to support business analytics. This part of the Acrolinx software is a really great way to help the content quality matter to maybe your boss, your boss's boss. And so look for some more information from Acrolinx about that very soon. I will hopefully be demonstrating that functionality in our software to some people very soon. And we'd love to share that information with you as soon as it's ready. All of these different initiatives with the Acrolinx software, all of these different enablements for your content goals, all tie into this ability to speak with one voice. And I like to ask the question, does it really matter if your company speaks with one voice? And the feedback I typically get is, of course it does. It matters very much if we have a consistent brand, if we have a consistent style in our content, if we can consistently provide information to our users. You can really leverage Acrolinx's immediate feedback, skill building, and the metrics to tie different content creators and different organizations together. So you can really ensure that all of these different teams who are working on content have consistent terminology, consistent style, consistent spelling, consistently translated terms, all of these things that matter to creating a single voice out of your company. Acrolinx is able to help you speak with one voice and manage content quality because our software is based on a client-server architecture. The Acrolinx software has all of the core central components stored on the Acrolinx server, which you can host internally to your company if you prefer. This piece of the software is really going to enable all of these different people who are working with the content to improve their content. You can connect to the Acrolinx server through multiple different platforms. Maybe you have an environment similar to IBM where people are working in Microsoft Word, they're working in internal authoring environments that are specific to IBM using XML, using DITA. Maybe you're in an environment where everyone is using the same authoring environment. It doesn't matter. Acrolinx has plugins for pretty much every major authoring environment that is out there today, and all of those different platforms are going to be able to connect to that central server so that all of these different teams working on content can check their content using the same spelling, grammar, style, and terminology rules and really enable that one voice out of your company. At this point, I would like to show you all how Acrolinx actually works in action. So I'm going to switch over to that software so you can see everything with Acrolinx. So just bear with me one moment while I pull up my next screen. All right. At this point, you should be able to see a document in XMetal on my screen. With Acrolinx today, I'm going to take you through a demonstration document and give you a sense of how the software works. I'm going to show you a couple of key components of Acrolinx within XMetal. If you're working with Acrolinx in another authoring environment, everything I'm showing you today is going to be true. Same look and feel of the software, same options, same configuration, same benefits from the software. I just picked this particular demonstration document because I like XMetal, but Acrolinx is authoring environment agnostic. We do not have a preference for which authoring environment you use, and I regularly demonstrate a large number of them. For XMetal today, I'm going to show you a couple key components of Acrolinx within this environment. Again, like I said, going to be the same if you're ever in a different authoring environment. The first thing that we're going to look at is the Acrolinx options screen. That's going to be generated from the Acrolinx toolbar, which is sitting up here. These red buttons here are the Acrolinx toolbar. And you can also see that we have a drop-down menu up here with some other options as well. This is going to be the same in just about every authoring environment you work in. If you're in Microsoft Word, for example, Acrolinx is going to hang out in your review tab next to spell check. But pretty much every other authoring environment has a toolbar set up, and so you're going to see these buttons across the board no matter what environment you're in. I'm going to generate the options by opening this button here. It's going to open my options screen, give me some choices with Acrolinx. The Acrolinx options screen is something that you're typically only going to touch one time until you need to change something. This is not an everyday requirement if you're using Acrolinx as an author or an editor, that end user functionality. There are a couple of key pieces to the Acrolinx options that I just want you all to be aware of. The first part of the options that I want to show you is the language. The language of Acrolinx is what content language you're checking your content in. So what language did you write your content in? For most of you on the call today, I'm going to assume that's English. We are, of course, going to look at a piece of content that was authored in English. But with Acrolinx, you can also check content that was authored in German, Swedish, French, Chinese, or Japanese. So if any of you work with organizations who might be authoring content in other languages, then that's something that's good to know. Also, a lot of you probably work in some kind of environment where there's translation occurring. And Acrolinx is really great with translated content and really enabling high-quality content at the source. If you want to manage translated terms with Acrolinx, you can do that very easily. We have really great terminology management for multilingual terminology as well. Very long list of languages supported there, more than I could possibly hope to recite from memory. So if that's something that's interesting to you, you're welcome to contact me and I can give you more information about that. The next major component of the options screen is what's called the rule set. This is the part of the software that's really going to enable you to check your content to adhere to those particular tone of voice or relevance guidelines that you might have. I mentioned very briefly in the presentation that with Acrolinx you might want to check your content for that kind of marketing style. You want to have a more engaging voice for your customer versus content that might be a little bit more technical, needs to be more formal in its tone of voice. Those distinctions are going to come into play with the rule set. With Acrolinx today, I'm going to look at a document that is fairly technical. It's an installation guide for a networking switch, so it has some process and parts information in it. I'm going to use the rule set that I've configured to support that kind of tone of voice, that relevance in my content, which for me is called my TechPubs rule set. The next major part of the options screen is what you actually want to check this content for. So today I'm going to show you several examples of Acrolinx flags within this content. So I'm going to show you Acrolinx check and Acrolinx check for spelling, grammar, style, and terminology. The deprecated terms is going to let me find terminology within the content that I don't want to use, deprecated terms, and Acrolinx is going to give me a suggestion for the terms that I do want to use, or preferred terms. This part of the software is what you just want to check for within the content today. So those are all set for me. The last part of the options screen is what's called the sets of terms, term sets that I want to check. Since we're checking terminology today, I want to tell Acrolinx which sets of terminology we're going to use. This is going to help me adhere to those brand initiatives I might have for the words that matter within my content. But here, the sets of terms we're going to use are our company terms, and then also, as I mentioned, this document is about networking switches, so I'm going to check against that product terminology as well. When I click OK, my options are good to go. And now I'm going to click this red button up here to run an Acrolinx check on this content. All Acrolinx is doing here is extracting the text in my content, running it against those rules on the server, and then it's going to provide me with this results information about what it found within my content. The results screen here gives you a breakdown of information about what Acrolinx found in your content. You can see those major checking categories that we chose for this Acrolinx check: spelling, grammar, style, and terminology. They all have a corresponding number of issues. At the bottom, you can see the scope of what Acrolinx checked, so just how many words and how many sentences. At the top here, you get some information about the quality of your content. The score with the emoticon here is just going to give you feedback about the quality of your content, much like a grade. We had customers request quality grades for their content, very similar to a test score you might have received in high school or junior high or something like that, with the sad face emoticon tied to it. So this is just telling us that our content needs some work. The sliding scale in the middle is going to give you a visual representation of where your content sits on that quality scale. Low quality content is going to be color-coded with a red bar, middle quality content is going to be yellow, and high quality content will be green. So here you can see this content is low quality, has some issues in it. We need to fix those issues with Acrolinx. When I click continue, Acrolinx is going to insert color-coded flags into my content, and this is the part of the software that is that immediate feedback mechanism. This part of the software is going to give you feedback about how to improve what you're writing, how to improve and adhere to those guidelines that your company might have related to style or voice or relevance. I'm going to take you through a few example flags today with Acrolinx so you can get a sense of some of the things that you can check for. For the audience today, I'm guessing that you probably are working in an environment where you have content that contains quite a lot of terms to manage. Terminology was a really major challenge for the content that I had at IBM that I worked with my team there. We had a lot of content that used new technology terms and content that also used terms that have been around for quite a while. Some of the terminology could be really hard to keep track of. Maybe it had complicated capitalization tied to its branding, or it was a little weird to spell. I saw that kind of content at IBM a lot. So it could be really time-consuming and a little annoying to have to look up the terminology that I was using while I edited a document. And Acrolinx can really help with that. This example here of Phillips head screwdriver is a term that I might look over or I might have to look up as an editor. Seems correct, right? So if we click this flag, Acrolinx is going to give us some feedback about it. You can see that Acrolinx suggests a replacement of crosshead screwdriver. You want to use this term instead because it's global, it's easy to translate, and it's easier to understand for a non-native English speaker. So I'm going to pop in that preferred term here. Another example of terminology management that Acrolinx can provide is this flag here on InfiniBand. Again, this is a term that looks correct, might get read over by someone editing this content. And Acrolinx instead knows that InfiniBand is actually a word that's branded in camel case. It's going to provide that correction to you here as well. And you can use that consistent way of writing this term over and over again. Another really useful terminology flag is a little bit farther down here in this document on check. Again, here you can see that we have perfectly correct content. There's these 3 flagged instances of check, and you can see that all of them are perfectly correct sentences. Check that you have all of the optional items you ordered. Nothing wrong with this sentence. As an editor, I would move right on past it. But we're really trying to support those tone of voice or relevance goals that we have for our content. So say you really wanted to have consistent wording for your global audience, for any kind of translation. Maybe you want to ensure that all of your authors are using make sure as their verb here instead of check. Acrolinx can find that for you. It's going to tell you to change these terms to make sure. And you can also see here that we have a global replacement option, replace and whole document with, make sure. And this is going to let me globally replace all of these instances of check to make sure. And so I'm going to do that now. It's going to pop in all of those replacements. So you can see the flags go away. All of those instances of check are changed to make sure. But notice that even though I replaced those, down here in number 8, we still have appropriate checkboxes and mail it with a check. These versions of check weren't globally replaced, and that's because Acrolinx is linguistically intelligent enough to know which part of speech that you're using. The verbs in these other numbered list items were replaced, and the other parts of speech that are occurring in number 8 did not get replaced. They get to be left alone. The next flag that I want to show you is a style flag, and that's in this sentence here. Here you can see the screen flag, like I said, for style, and this is occurring to guide me to avoid a needless word. So I can see that feedback from Acrolinx here. This is a good example of a sentence that might be difficult to understand or expensive to translate because it contains this wordy expression. Acrolinx is guiding us to use a single word instead, site, instead of it can be seen that site. So we can really simplify this sentence. So we're going to pop in that replacement there. Same thing here with extremely. Extremely is another needless word for this kind of content. So you can just delete that content using Acrolinx. It's going to give me that guideline. And changing that sentence down to 4 words is going to make it much simpler, easier to read. It just really cleans up your content to be simpler and clearer. We have a similar kind of issue down here in this number list. This flag here is on sentence length. By default, Acrolinx checks for content for sentences that are over 26 words, and that length can be customized to whatever you need within your organization and your content. By checking for longer sentences, you really have an ability to simplify and clarify your content. You know, we're in the technology space. We all love to talk. I know I do. I know my content certainly can become rather verbose very easily, but a more global audience just doesn't understand all of that wordiness. Shorter, clearer, more concise sentences really make your content more compelling, more readable, and easier to comprehend, so you can use Acrolinx to really positively affect that content. You can also see here with my sentence length guideline that I don't have a suggested replacement from Acrolinx. Here, Acrolinx is really depending upon the person who's working with this content to make a decision about this flag. I need to use all of these words. I would like my sentence the way it is. I don't want to change it and ignore the flag. Or maybe as the editor, the author, I know I can clean this up a little bit, make this sentence a little bit more concise. And so I'll edit the flag, maybe break it into 2 sentences or change the wording a little bit. The next flag that I want to show you is another terminology flag here on IB. This kind of rule with Acrolinx can be really helpful. This helped my content at IBM as well. Here we can get the feedback from Acrolinx that we don't want to abbreviate InfiniBand. This is going to catch that abbreviation. Really can improve your use of acronyms or abbreviations, especially when you're in that setting where so many authors and editors have so much information to keep track of. Can't remember what can be abbreviated which way, and so Acrolinx can help manage that. We want to replace that abbreviated form of the word here as well. Next, I want to show you these 2 blue flags here for grammar. In this one here, this numbered list item, you can see that this flag on A additional should really be an additional. This is something that's really easy to read over and miss the error if you're a busy author or an editor. Acrolinx is going to be able to it's going to be able to catch that kind of distinction for you, give you that basic grammar need, and meet that for you here. So we're going to pop that one in. Another kind of grammar rule down here in this list item C. We have a double prepositional phrase when you only need one. Another good example of something where maybe you started writing one thing, changed your mind, and forgot to delete the original text. Again, Acrolinx is going to find that error for you, give you a guideline that you duplicated your text, avoid duplicates, and give you feedback about which one to choose. So you can replace with whichever prepositional phrase you really intended to use in the first place. Now I want to show you all one more flag in a DITA environment. So I'm going to switch over to my DITA document, which I already ran a check on. In this document in XMetal, you can see that we have pretty much the same kind of content as we just looked at in the other XML file. For time's sake, like I said, I already ran a check on this piece of content, but it looks exactly the same as the first check. So you haven't missed anything. That check is the same. What I did, though, is I used a different rule set that supports context-specific rules. So if you're creating content in a structured environment, you have a little bit more flexibility and power with Acrolinx. So when you're in regular unstructured content like you might be using for Microsoft Word today, then you're going to get great feedback from Acrolinx. All the examples I've shown you today are going to hold true in that environment. But you can get a little bit more interesting feedback if you are in an XML or structured authoring environment. So I have a specific data rule that I wanted to show you in here. This flag here, is going to be the feedback that we want to see. So if you're in a structured XML environment, like I said, Acrolinx is going to give you that additional functionality for context-specific rules. So in this caution flag, you can see that the text is bold, and this is true within the tags. If I turn my tags on, so you can see my bold tag here. And we'll go back to normal view. Here with Acrolinx, you're going to be able to use this information to help you a little bit farther. So if we click on this flag here, you can see that we have a flag related to the formatting of our content. With Acrolinx, you can really guide your authors to use the correct formatting in a structured environment. So if you didn't want this admonishment bolded when you publish the document, maybe you want it to have a different tag, Acrolinx can give you that guideline, can help you fix that, and explain to your author why they want to use this tag in a certain way. So what I want to show you with this one as well is another layer to that immediate feedback mechanism. If we click on the line with the question mark here, Acrolinx is going to pop up what's called its help file information. This feedback, this additional layer to that immediate feedback of the software, is going to give anyone who's working with Acrolinx more information about how to improve their content. So if you don't understand a flag on a term, you can click the same section within the Acrolinx feedback and get more details about the flag and examples of what to write. This is true for every flag that we've looked at today. They're all connected to specific information about those individual flags. This gives your authors a way to learn and improve their quality over time, build those skills like I mentioned in the presentation. Most people aren't going to write the same thing incorrectly over and over. They're getting feedback about why it's wrong. So you can really teach all of these different people who are working on content about how to create better content and build skills when you use Acrolinx. So you can see in this help file specifically that we're trying to adhere to a particular guideline about our tagging system. This is going to help improve the content and the tags that I'm using. If we look at another help file example, for example, if we go back into XML, and look at something for another flag, such as this style guideline here. If I click on this, you can see I have the line with the question mark, and this flag in particular is guiding me toward a stylistic choice to avoid the future tense. Again, in this environment, if I don't know what that means, if I want more feedback about it, just like with the bold tag in the data environment, I can get that feedback from Acrolinx as well. Click the line with the question mark, and it'll take you into that help file page, give you more detail about what's going on with that guideline, and you can clear up things for your writers and your editors a little bit. I see sentences in the present tense. They're easier to understand. I understand why I want to avoid the future tense and write in the present tense within my content. The next thing that I want to show you all today is the reporting functionality of Acrolinx. Acrolinx includes a lot of out-of-the-box reporting features. There is a show report button in all of the plugins. It's hanging out up here. That's going to let you generate reports on those individual checks that you run on your content. You can also run Acrolinx. You can use Acrolinx to run reports on collections of documents if you want to batch check content, if you want to check an entire data map, maybe anything like that, collections of content at once. You can use Acrolinx for that as well and get similar reporting information. You can get details about more content, more information from those reports that can help you show those measured improvements to your content quality over time. Acrolinx stores all of our reporting information in a database that can be exported into another software like Crystal Reports or Excel if you wanted to keep track of metrics in another piece of software. Also, as I mentioned in the presentation at the beginning of the webinar, Acrolinx's next release is going to include some new analytics and business-friendly reporting, and so you're going to be able to get even more power with that next release of the software. What I want to show you today is what's called our individual checking report. This report is going to give you an idea of all the things that Acrolinx caught in your content. So I'm going to open that up. Also going to pop up in my browser. Like I mentioned, these reports are stored on the database, and so you can, on the server, so you can access them from the server down the road. You can also very easily print them to PDF, use them within your organization. You can pass this URL around internally to your organization if you wanted to look at a report for a specific piece of content. I did that at IBM with my team so I could see information in their checking reports before I edited their content. This checking report has several key sections that I just want to take you through today, and so you get a sense of some of the things that are included within the report. The individual checking report is very specific to the check that we just ran on our content with Acrolinx in XMetal. If I did another check on that content, I would get a new checking report. So it's going to give me very good contextual information about what is going on in that piece of content with that check with Acrolinx. Very useful to incorporate as part of your editing process, as I mentioned already. The checking report itself has several key sections, the first of which is going to give you results information related to those checking categories that we checked our content with today. You can see those major categories here: spelling, grammar, style, terminology, their corresponding results and scores, just like we saw on that results screen at the beginning of the demonstration, at the beginning of the XMetal content check. The next two sections in the individual checking report are going to give you administrative and checking information about this content. The administrative section is going to tell you things like who ran the check on the content, what file you checked, what version of the software you're using. The checking information section is going to tell you things like the timestamp of the check, all the settings you used, and the score and quality of your content. You can see that we have that red dot here for the quality of our content. You can also see right now there's this flash reading ease score here. This is a readability score that you can use with Acrolinx if you want the standard in a lot of different areas of content. This reading score is not typically turned on by default with Acrolinx. I've been using it for some data for some customers, so I have mine turned on right now. So you can see it here that we have a reasonable reading ability with this content. But we know that we have some contextual things within it that need to be changed that are going to help with our tone of voice and relevance goals. So you can see that the flash reading ease score doesn't tell me all the same information as Acrolinx, but together you can really use them to help with that readability depending on what's important to your content and your company's content goals. So just wanted to point that out since I do have mine turned on. It's a specific request from another customer, and I wanted to make sure I got to address that with you all. After the administrative and checking information sections, we have the actual good, detailed, contextual information in our report for what Acrolinx found within this content. In the checking report here, you can see a couple of really key pieces of information that we saw within the content as we checked it. For example, we saw some spelling flags at the beginning of the content. I didn't click on those flags specifically, but they were hanging out in my content behind the scenes. So if we had looked at them, we would have gotten this same feedback from Acrolinx in the content as is in the report here. So I can see that I had a word that was misspelled, management. I have a suggested replacement from Acrolinx here on that correct way to spell that word. And I have the contextual details of where that flag occurred within my content. The same is true for grammar and style. You can see those a little bit farther down here. In the grammar section, you can see I have a summary of all of the grammar flags that occurred within this content, and then I have all of their contextual details as well. We looked at this and distinction in the content within XMetal. So we saw this error here. You can see the flag on the content here. And then the same context is included in the checking report with the suggested replacement that Acrolinx provided. So you can see here that we have that an additional replacement within this particular context. Style looks pretty much the same as grammar, summary of the rules that occurred, and the same details of context, flag with the incorrect phrasing from Acrolinx that Acrolinx caught for you, and then the same context with that suggested replacement. You can see that we saw this particular flag down here of avoid needless word. You can see that flag on the content, and you can see the suggested replacement that Acrolinx provided. This information, like I said, can be really useful to incorporate as part of your process. At IBM, I worked with these reports. I looked at them before I edited my team's content very often. I could get a sense as the editor of what they had already corrected within their content using Acrolinx. I could see that they had effectively performed that copy edit stage of the review process themselves. That helped free up my editing focus. I could focus on higher level pieces. I could make sure that the technical accuracy of the content was there, that it flowed, made sense for what we were trying to achieve, met its original requirements, all of those good things that are really, really important for those vast editing skills that you probably have within your organization. And Acrolinx can really help with that by enabling you to have the report information and get to see the detail from Acrolinx. Also here in the report, we have links to those help files. So maybe you're the team lead or the manager looking at this report. Maybe you didn't see the content itself within that authoring environment. So maybe I'm in a position where I don't know what avoid needless word means. And so if you click on that line to the rule, it's going to take you to the help file information as well. We've looked at a couple of examples of the Acrolinx help files for other particular flags. And so you can see those pieces here for the links within the checking reports as well, all nice and linked together so you can always get to that detail from the checking reports. Ultimately, these reports are really designed to give you the information to show improvements to the quality of your content. So I'm going to show you one more report today that you can generate with Acrolinx using what's called our batch checker. The Acrolinx batch checker is a great way to check collections of content at one time, and this is something that you can also do within many of the different authoring environments. I mentioned maybe wanting to run a check on a data map, maybe wanting to batch check a whole lot of Word content. Those pieces of functionality are embedded within those plugins. So if you want to batch check some Word content, you can do that directly within Word. Today, what I want to show you an example of is another report called our aggregated report. This report is going to have a good tie-in to showing measured improvements to your quality over time, which is something that I mentioned in the presentation. You can generate an aggregated report by batch checking a collection of content. It's going to be able to keep track of the quality for all of that content. In the batch checker today, I have everything configured to generate that report, so I'm just going to find the files that I want to check and go ahead and check them. This functionality within the batch checker, like I mentioned, embedded in some of the plugins as well, and it's going to have the same functionality as what we looked at within an individual plugin like in XMetal. Same checking options you can configure to support your language, your tone of voice, and relevance guidelines. All of those different aspects of the software are true within the batch checker as well. The major difference here is that instead of having to open each of those files individually, I can run a batch check on all of them at once, save some time, just let Acrolinx run in the background. It's going to be quite a bit faster. And of course, let me generate that aggregated report to show those measured improvements to quality over time. You can see in the background, as Acrolinx finishes checking each file, it's giving me a score about the quality of this content. This score also came up in the results screen of the XMetal content. It is a score that's just designed to give you some feedback about the quality of your content. You want to shoot for a low number. It's going to show that your content is higher quality. So think golf, not bowling, much better in that environment. You can see here these scores also have the color codes that we've already seen. Red for low quality content, yellow for in the middle, and green for high quality content. This information with the score is a great way to get some feedback from the software about how high or low quality your content is today. You can run this check with Acrolinx on your content today, get that baseline of how low or high quality it is, work with the software for a while, and run that content through the check again, see how your quality scores have improved, how your content is improving over time. This is also going to be included within the batch check itself and within the aggregated report. So that's what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to generate that aggregated report. Again, going to pop up in my browser, stored on the server. You can access it very easily without the content or the batch check in front of you. The Acrolinx aggregated report has 3 major tabs. The first tab is called the Summary tab. It's going to give us, quite obviously, a summary of what we checked within this content. You can see the total number of files. You can see the flag counts and the scores for those major checking categories. In this batch check, I just checked the content for spelling, grammar, and style, so we can see results related to those categories. All of that gets you to an average score for the content and an average checking status, or how high or low quality your content is. You can see this batch of content is color-coded red, which means we've got some work to do. On average, it is low quality and needs a little bit of help. At the bottom of the summary screen, there are the settings that you chose for the batch check. So when you look at this report without the content in front of you, you know what settings were used to check that content. So I can see that down here. The next tab of the aggregated report is going to give you a lot more detail about the results of the Acrolinx batch check. You can see those checking scores here, that same color coding configuration, red for low quality, yellow for in the middle, and then those two sneaky green pieces of content down here that are high quality. This information, like I said, can be really great for those baselines, give you that ability to show how much your content has improved over time. You can see details here on this screen related to those checking categories, their flag counts, and their scores for each individual file that was included in this batch. If I'm the team lead or the manager looking at this content, maybe I need a little bit more information about the scores, what's going on in a particular file. Maybe I see, hey, this file has a score of a 645. It's really low quality content. It needs a lot of help. If I click the name of the file, it's going to take me to that individual checking report for that particular file. Can get a sense of what's going on in this particular piece of content from the individual checking report, just like we saw for the X metal check that we ran a few minutes ago. All of the individual checking reports are laid out the same. Results information at the top, administrative and checking information in the middle, with that feedback about your timestamp, who ran the check, what files you checked, all those good details. And then you get to the good information about the context of that content and all of those Acrolinx flags. You can see this file didn't happen to have any spelling errors, but it does have some grammar and style issues, and so we can see those within the report here. You can see the flag on the content, and you can see the same context with that suggested replacement that Acrolinx provided. These rules are also all linked to the help files. If you're looking at this information, you can get to the help files as well. Get that feedback, see the immediate feedback and the help information that your authors are seeing. If you don't get to see that within your content, because maybe you're the manager or the team lead, all of that is nice and linked together, and so you can see the same thing down here for style. If I go back to the aggregated report, I have one more tab, Style and Grammar Summary tab here. This is going to give you a total flag count for all of the grammar and style rules that occurred within this content. That's going to give me information about all of those different rules that are occurring. Great for that improved consistency, improving the quality of your content as well. This information can be really useful to tie into a return on investment. Maybe you're in an environment where you're translating a lot of your content and you need to keep your word count under wrap. Maybe you know that particular dollar amount for every word you're translating. So something like avoid future tense, which cuts down on a word, avoid redundant word, going to cut down on a word. Those things you can tie very easily to a very explicit dollar amount, generate a cost savings, give you that argument for how much Acrolinx can really improve your content. This page can also be really useful for remedial assistance. Maybe you're the editor, maybe you're the team lead for a bunch of writers, and you can see from this page there's a high flag count on use imperative. Maybe your team of writers just doesn't understand that guideline. They need a little bit of assistance, some more guidelines, some more information about how to adhere to that style guideline. So maybe you want to have a brown bag session over lunch or something. Give them a little bit more feedback about what your company is trying to achieve, what you're working to do with your content, and get that information from the software to help with that. Ultimately, like I said earlier, all of our reports are really designed to give you information that you need to show improvements to the quality of your content. So you can really use all of the Acrolinx reports, the details that are in this aggregated report here, the information in the individual checking report, to demonstrate those improvements to your content's consistency, understandability, and findability. And of course, all of these different aspects of Acrolinx are really just all enabling you to improve the overall quality of your content and make sure that your content is able to achieve that single voice, that one voice out of your company. With that, we have about 15 minutes left. I have a couple of questions in the background. I want to make sure that we get the chance to address any questions that you all have. So I'm going to pop my contact information back up so it's on the screen here so that you all can see it while you while you ask me questions in the background, and then I'd like to address any of the questions that might come up as I am in a losing battle with PowerPoint. There we go. Perfect. This is what happens when you use PowerPoint too much in one day, I assume. All right, so you should be able to see my contact information on the screen again. So certainly copy that down however makes sense. And you will be able to reach out to me directly if you have any questions that you don't want to ask directly in this setting today. At this point, you're welcome to type any questions that you might have about what I've shown you or about something that is specific to Acrolinx within the question box. You're welcome to do that. Looks like I have a raised hand in the background. Audrey, did you want to ask a question over the air out loud instead of typing it in? I can take you off mute to do that. Hold on 1 second. All right. All right, Audrey, you should be able to speak if you wanted to ask your question out loud. You're welcome to do that. All right, maybe not. Maybe the hand raising was an accident. If you have a question still, you're welcome to type it into the question box and I'll get to it. So there's a couple of questions I've gotten in the background. I want to make sure we get those answered. So the first question is, what are all the rule set choices? This is a great question. So you saw, of course, in my presentation or in my demonstration of the software, there was a drop-down for those rule sets. This is something that is really up to your organization. Out of the box, Acrolinx comes with what we call our best of breed rules. This is a combination of guidelines from the Chicago Manual of Style, the Microsoft Manual of Style, and a large collection of really great best of breed, very standard style guidelines that we have collected over our many years of doing this. So we have a good, robust collection of style guidelines and grammar and spelling rules that come from a lot of different organizations. We find that this best of breed rules really covers about 90 to 95% about what any kind of company really needs to support their content and really achieve those different content goals that they might have. For that other remaining 5 to 10% that might not be covered by what comes out of the box with Acrolinx, we also offer an ability to create some custom rules. So Acrolinx is really great at helping you prioritize what makes the most sense for your content and gives you the ability to prioritize and create custom rules with us that can really enforce any other kind of style requirements that you might have that are very specific to your company. So Acrolinx has a lot of opportunities for flexibility, configuration, customization to make sure that it works with your content and helps you achieve the content goals that you have. And so we would work with you to make sure that all of those different pieces get included. With the rule set choices, you also have the ability to, of course, break those different style requirements into enabling those different tone of voice or relevance goals. So for example, at IBM, I had several different rule sets to choose from. I also have several different rule sets configured on my system here that I can demonstrate to show different customers different requirements with content. And that's really just an ability to enable those different tone of voice or relevance guidelines. So maybe it's as simple as you have that distinction between technical content and maybe sales-oriented or marketing kind of friendly content, and you want to check for different things. So maybe in one kind of content you want to use contractions, and the other one you don't. And so in one rule set, the contractions rule will be turned on, and in another one, it would be turned off, and you could make those distinctions. So lots of flexibility and configuration options. Hopefully that answers your question. The next question I have is, can you batch check all of the files in a FrameMaker book file? And the answer is absolutely yes. Within FrameMaker, you can check an entire FrameMaker book. You can batch check a collection of just .fm files, whatever workflow makes sense to you. Certainly we have lots of customers who want to check an entire book at once, and I often do that for customers as well to show them feedback about their content today. So definitely flexibility to do that. It's embedded within the FrameMaker plugin directly. Very easy to use. Can you batch check other authors' documents? Is the next question. And absolutely, yes, you can check anyone's content. I could even go check a website that is hanging out publicly if I wanted to look at the content that is on acrolinx.com or maybe some other public website that you might need to check content on. Or if you are connected to some sort of content repository, maybe you have a shared drive of content. I worked off a shared drive a lot at IBM. I had some writers who worked directly off that shared drive, and they just saved their content to it over and over again. But Acrolinx doesn't technically care who authored the content. If you want to check somebody else's, you are welcome to do that using either the individual check or the batch check. And I have a question. Do you feel that Acrolinx is a threat to an editor in any organization? That is a really great question, and of course a slightly touchy one for some people. Definitely want to make sure that we're not replacing editor functionality. Acrolinx is not designed to replace a human editor at all. It's really just here to help you automate and make some of those editing processes more scalable. Help you keep track of things that are hard to remember as a human, or that might take time to go find somewhere else. So if you're an editor looking at content, probably you're spending some part of your editing process fixing those basic grammar, word use requirements, those style guidelines that are very specific to your organization, those different words that you need to use. Acrolinx is really just enabling the scalability and the automation of those areas, giving the editor the ability to focus on the higher, more important components of content. You know that the quality of the content is very valuable, very significant to all different areas of content, but your skills as an editor are usually better leveraged by ensuring the accuracy of the content, the flow, making sure it fulfills the requirements that were set out when that content was created. Definitely Acrolinx is dependent upon that person interacting with the software, making decision about how to improve that content, how to adhere to those different guidelines. Definitely don't want to replace an editor. We just want to make the editors more efficient, really give you an ability to improve that productivity. I, of course, was an editor at IBM, and my position was not eliminated by Acrolinx. It was made more valuable. In fact, I was able to edit more content more efficiently. I was able to enable my team to write better content, and I was able to focus my editing skills on the areas that really, really mattered. The next question I have is there an existing webinar on the SEO feature, or is that new or planned? There is an existing webinar on the SEO feature, which we would be happy to send to you. PG Bartlett, one of our senior vice presidents here at Acrolinx, did a really great SEO presentation, I believe, and I'm pretty sure it is recorded, so we can send that link to you. We also probably will do more search engine optimization webinars moving forward. I don't know exactly if there is a specific one planned for the rest of the year. I can find that out as well, and we can make sure that you have information about SEO. And certainly, if you are interested in a more hands-on information about SEO, then I can certainly demonstrate that to anyone individually or in another group setting. The next question I have is, can Acrolinx check formatting, specifically headings? And Acrolinx can check formatting depending on where your content is authored. So you saw an example today of that improper bold emphasis, strong tie-in to the formatting there. If you're in an XML environment, Acrolinx is going to be able to determine what tags you're using. You can create context-specific rules related to those tags and tie formatting requirements to them. There's lots of flexibility there. If you're in an unstructured authoring environment, maybe you're using unstructured FrameMaker or Microsoft Word to create your content, and you don't have any structure tied to it. With the formatting with Acrolinx, you can't really do as much. It's a little bit more limited what you're capable of doing. But if you're looking for something specific with your headings, maybe you want to ensure that you're using capitalization at the beginning of the sentence or something. Acrolinx is going to be able to process the heading of your content. It's going to know that this piece of content is a heading versus this piece of content is regular body text based on the styles that you're using within your content. So you do have some flexibility there. Really just depends on what kind of formatting you want to check, and most of that power is going to come from a structured authoring environment with Acrolinx. The next question I have is there any function that checks the accuracy of formatting, e.g. head levels? Same kind of question. That same answer applies. So if you want to check formatting, structured content is going to be the most powerful for you there. If you are creating in a Word environment, you have a little bit of flexibility depending on the context of your styles, but it's going to be most powerful within structured environment and have a lot of flexibility there. The next question I have is Acrolinx with Visio files. I am not aware of any Acrolinx integration with Visio. I don't know of any customer use cases for Visio. The next question is also Acrolinx with PowerPoint. We do have an Acrolinx PowerPoint plugin. Definitely a great use case there. I'll look into Visio, see if I can find out anything else that I don't know about there, but I'm pretty sure we don't have anyone who has requested using Acrolinx within Visio. But I will find that out. PowerPoint definitely, of course, going to be strong use case there. We use the PowerPoint plugin at IBM. We created lots of content within PowerPoint. I think even probably my manager used that plugin to check his PowerPoint content before presenting it to the VP or something like that. So good example there. The next question I have is, can you check for acronyms? And you can, using terminology, depending on what you want to check for with those acronyms. So I showed an example in this demonstration today of checking Acrolinx with the IB abbreviation for InfiniBand. You saw that there was a flag on writing that out, right, InfiniBand instead of IB. And so depending on what you want to manage with acronyms, lots of different options there. That's a great example of not wanting to abbreviate certain terms certain ways. Maybe you want to abbreviate them a specific way every time. Maybe even just want to note to your authors about, hey, is this the first occurrence of this acronym? If so, make sure you define it here. If not, it can be written like this. And so even if you wanted to include something like a note in that feedback from the software within the authoring environment, you could do that too. So depending on what you want to manage with Acrolinx, absolutely you can really drive that with Acrolinx's amazing terminology management. My next question is, are you able to try Acrolinx on a trial basis? And so this completely depends on what you need. It is not as simple as you can just simply go to our website and download the software. It's quite a bit more to it than that, since Acrolinx is linguistics. It's very powerful and very related to the kind of content that you're working on. If you're interested in learning more about how it could work with your content and trying it on your content, getting a little bit more feedback from there, I would ask that you contact me directly. I can follow up with you and get connected, because there are some different options there depending on what makes the most sense for your content. Can certainly give you more information outside of the context of this webinar. I think that is all. Those are all of the questions, I think. If anyone has any other question, we have reached the top of the hour, so go ahead and pop that in quickly and I'll try and answer it. And otherwise, I'm just going to wait another minute or two to make sure nothing else comes in. And otherwise, we will see you next time. Can you batch check all the files in a FrameMaker book? Yes, you can batch check all the files in a FrameMaker book. I'm so sorry if you all did not hear the answer to that question. FrameMaker book files can definitely be batch checked. That functionality exists within the batch checker, or within the FrameMaker plugin itself. Thanks! I'm glad that you all liked the presentation. I'm getting some good responses back in the question about how great Acrolinx is, so that's wonderful feedback. Thank you so much for your participation, your questions today, and your time. I'm really glad that I was able to give you all this presentation. Of course, You have seen my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you need more information about Acrolinx, if you're curious about anything that you didn't get the chance to ask today, you are welcome to contact me via any of those different channels. Definitely send me LinkedIn connections. I'm always happy to expand my network and give people more information. Love meeting new people related to content. That's always great. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. As I said, we will be distributing the recording of this presentation very soon. I have to just double check with my team about the timeline on that, but it should be coming your way pretty quickly. And you, of course, are welcome to share this presentation with anyone else that you work with who might not have been able to attend today. Again, thank you so much for your time. I'm really glad that you all were able to join me today, and enjoy the rest of your day or morning or wherever you are, and I will speak with you all soon, I'm sure. Thank you.